Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection episode 209. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is some San Diego Comic-Con 2022 exclusive figures from Super7. Now, I've talked about these figures a little bit in two prior videos because Comic-Con happened near the end of July. I think it was the weekend, like the 24th, 25th, something like that. So I first talked about these figures when Super7 announced them. And I was pretty excited when this announcement came out because I not only collect Super7's reaction figures, which is their line of 3 3/4 inch, 5 points of articulation, kind of retro Kenner style figures, but I also collect their 7-inch Ultimates line of figures, which is their larger, more detailed, more accessories, highly detailed line of figures. So they do both reaction and Ultimates for a variety of brands. So G.I. Joe is a license that they started with not too long ago. They've put out, I think, 3 waves, or are we up to 4 now? They put out at least 3 waves of G.I. Joe reaction figures now, and they haven't delivered their first line of G.I. Joe Ultimates figures yet. So when these exclusives were announced, they had a bunch of G.I. Joe reaction figures, and they also had a G.I. Joe Ultimates figure, which they were going to be delivering to people that bought it because it was available at San Diego, so you could have walked away with it right then and there. Their first G.I. Joe Ultimates figure. So this was a surprise announcement. We didn't know that figure was coming, and it was going to be delivered to people before they even got their Wave 1 G.I. Joe figures. So it was kind of our first taste of G.I. Joe Ultimates. So that one made it like extra special. So at first I was kind of pissed because I wasn't going to go to San Diego and I wanted all of these figures, and I thought, well, I'm going to end up having to go on eBay and try and buy them from somebody for secondary market prices, and that's going to be very frustrating. But the weekend after San Diego, or like the Monday after San Diego Comic-Con, they put up all the exclusive items for sale on their website, and I was able to buy them at regular retail cost, the same price Super7 was selling them for at the con. So I jumped on there right at 1 p.m. as soon as the sale started, and I bought up everything. And I did so quick. It was like a whirlwind that I didn't even really think of all the money I was spending, because it ended up being quite a lot in the grand scheme of things, because I bought all 6 glow-in-the-dark G.I. Joe reaction figures, and those figures were about $25 a pop. And I bought all 3 glow-in-the-dark Godzilla reaction figures, and those figures were $25 a pop. Then I bought their, I think, 5 or 6 figures G.I. Joe reaction figure box set, and I can't even remember what that was, but I want to say $125 or so maybe. And then I bought the G.I. Joe Ultimates figure that they had available, and that figure was $55. Also, me being in Canada, our dollar is like $1.30 on the dollar. So take that amount, times it by 1.3, you get that. Then you got to add on shipping. Then you got to add on customs charges when it crosses the border. Anyway, it was a big chunk of change. And after I had hit that purchase now button, and it kind of dawned on me, I was like, oh shit, that was a big purchase that I wasn't really planning on spending. But anyway, shortly after I made that order, I got a shipping notification that said, your order is partially on the way. And now I'm not sure why that was the case, but they sent me the 6 glow-in-the-dark G.I. Joes and the 3 glow-in-the-dark Godzilla figures pretty promptly. So I got those figures a few weeks back, a month ago now, and I've reviewed those on my channel, but at the time I hadn't opened them. I just showed you the figures carded. And I kind of said at the time that I didn't know if I was even going to open them because the card art was a lot of the appeal. And I was thinking of just keeping them carded and pinned up on my wall, kind of like this. But since I shot that video, I did decide to open up all those glow-in-the-dark reaction figures. So I probably will talk about them in this video as well, even though you've already seen them. But today, I just had a second shipment come, the rest of my San Diego figures. So again, I'm not sure why they were like a month apart, but they were. So here are the items. Now, I did open this box as soon as I got it, so I have looked at these items already, but I put them back in the box for your guys' benefit. So here is the first one. So this is the Pyramid of Darkness box set, or Pyramid of Darkness pack, as they call it there. So that's just the plain mailer box there, nothing too exciting. But this is a little different than what you see on most reaction figures, because most reaction figures, they come on, a standard blister pack like this, just, a little piece of cardboard. But this here, we get a full box set. So it's nice packaging. You get that G.I. Joe logo on the kind of purple brick, because it's supposed to look like a castle. And there you go. So that is the front of the, Pyramid of Darkness. I think in my last video I kept referring to it as the Temple of Darkness, but Pyramid, Temple, what's the difference? Now this is based off of a specific episode of the cartoon. I think it was actually a couple of episodes, like it was a 3-episode or a 5-episode arc called The Pyramid of Darkness. Now it's been a long time since I've watched those. I love the G.I. Joe cartoon. I have all of them on DVD, but I don't have them all ingrained in my memory. I assume that this is probably what the Pyramid of Darkness looked like in the cartoon, with a big snake head and the purple brick and these orange doors or whatever. That's probably what it looked like, but I can't say with absolute certainty. In fact, I'm probably going to do the introduction of this video where I'm showing you these things in the boxes, and then I'm going to cut away and I will show you the toys once I've got them out of the box. I don't think I'm actually going to get around to shooting that tonight. So maybe what I'll do, I'll show you the box here now. I'll come back tomorrow and I'll shoot the stuff outside of the packaging, which, doesn't mean anything to you guys because it's all going to be cut right together. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and rewatch the Pyramid of Darkness in between just to kind of refresh my memory on it. But anyway, so there you go. There's the box set. Now this here is just a sleeve that slides off like so. I think I might have to slide it over the top. Okay. So you slide this over the top like so. And there you go. Now you can see all of the figures inside. So I've got 3 Cobra Troopers, which are essentially identical. And I already have a bunch of Cobra Troopers in my reaction figure collection. But Super7 is really good about differentiating them just enough so that you don't feel like you're getting the exact figure over and over and over again. So these 3 figures are different from the other Cobra Troopers in my collection because they have this extra backpack with those straps crisscrossing their chest. So that's something new. You'll be able to see that better once I open them up. But also you'll notice they have different ethnicities. So with these 2 guys, I've got a white guy and a black guy. Then there's another guy here. He might be another white guy as well. I don't know if he's the exact same as the other white guy, because in the individual carded figures, they actually have a white guy, a black guy, and a Latino guy. Now, when I'm looking at these guys, I don't really see a difference in the skin tone between the 2 lighter guys. So I don't think one of them is necessarily Latino, but maybe I'll be able to tell that better once I open them up. Now, there's also this robot, which they call the Cobra Security Robot. And so he's really cool because that's a figure that we have never seen before. He's never been made in any version of G.I. Joe ever. So it's always really cool to get these episode-specific characters that as a kid, I probably really wanted that guy. I've kind of long since forgotten about him because it's been a long time since I watched the cartoon. But, Super7 has previously given us the, blind woodsman who rescued Snake Eyes from dying of, radiation poisoning. And that was just some random character that appeared in one episode of the cartoon. Never thought we would have got him. And now Super7's making him. And now they're doing the same thing with this security robot. He was probably only in, one scene, maybe, 30 seconds of animation. But here he is. And the other 2 figures in the set are Shipwreck and Snake Eyes, and they are in disguises, so they're dressed up as snakelings. Now, Super7 has previously released some snakeling troopers, which are just kind of generic Cobra Troopers. I think they probably only ever appeared in the Pyramid of Darkness episodes and never again, because I had actually forgotten about them. but I did buy a couple of the Snake Lane individually carded figures, and now I've got Shipwreck and Snake Eyes in their Snake Lane outfits, which is pretty cool. Now, as a bonus, you can see on Shipwreck's shoulder, he's got his parrot, Polly, so that's pretty cool. And you can barely see him in there, but behind Snake Eyes, it's hard for me to see with the glare here, but his wolf Timber is actually in the packaging. So even if you can't see him now, you'll get a closer look at him once I open this up. And another cool thing we got there, which you can't really see, is there's a computer terminal here that the security droid comes with. So, yeah, you're not just getting these 6 figures, but you're getting some cool accessories as well. A couple of animals and a little control panel. Now, the back of the box, it's got some still images from the episode. So you see Snake Eyes and Shipwreck in their outfits, their disguises. You see the security droid there. Now you'll notice there's 2 file cards. We've got the Cobra security droid file card, and we also have a Cobra Trooper file card. Now, I think 1 file card for the Cobra Troopers is fine, even though there's 3 of them in there. I am kind of surprised that we didn't get a file card for Shipwreck and Snake Eyes. Now, I don't know, maybe there's file cards inside of the box. I guess we'll find out once I open it up. But anyway, that's the set. I wanted to show you guys before I actually open it up, because I have not done so yet. So yeah, very, very cool. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the Ultimates figure that I got. So if you're familiar with the Ultimates, again, I mentioned they're the 7-inch detailed line, lots of accessories, and they come with really nice boxes. I recently had to throw out a whole bunch of them, and it was really painful to do because these boxes are really, really nice. It really adds to the presentation of the Ultimates figures, but you know, I have a lot of figures, as you can see. I cannot keep the boxes for all of them. I simply just don't have the room. So I kept a few. So just to give you an idea, if you're not familiar, this is what an Ultimates box looks like. So this is Mondo Gecko from the Ninja Turtles line. You get a little graphic on the front, you slide it off, and then you get the action figure kind of packaged inside. So like that's a Turtles one. This is from the Transformers lines of Ultimates. So you get this Optimus Prime on a grid there with the Autobot logo. Slide it off, the figure would be inside with a little kind of like file card on the back. This is one of my Conan Ultimate boxes. So you get the Conan the Barbarian logo, the sword on the back. It's textured, it feels like leather. The figure's inside. And last one I have here to show you is Thundercats. So you get Thundercats, you know, title, logo, slide it off. The figure would be inside. Some artwork of the character on the back of the box. So you can see they're all pretty different and pretty unique to the brand, but they all kind of have that same style. And like I said, they're really nice. I've held on to a few of them, but I will probably eventually even have to break those down and throw them out just because they're kind of piling up in the corner of my room. And when I get too many, I got to break them down. So, the G.I. Joe Wave 1 Ultimates, I believe, are supposed to come out before the end of the year. So there's 4 figures in Wave 1, and then there's 4 figures in Wave 2 and 3. They've announced all of those. They usually have 3 waves of any brand on pre-order at any given time. Once Wave 1 finally is delivered to us, then I'm sure Wave 4 will go up for pre-order, and then we'll have to wait a year or so for that. So I have pre-ordered all 3 waves of G.I. Joe. However, there's a lot riding on this figure, because if you've heard me talk about Ultimates in some recent videos, I am really questioning whether I'm going to continue to buy them. I think they are fantastic figures. Last year, my best of 2021 list, one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ultimate figures topped my list for best toy of the year, and that was their Mutagen Man. Great figure. I have a whole bunch of the Turtle ones, and I think they're all great. I have the Transformer ones, the Thundercats, Conan, a couple other brands. For the most part, I've been pleased with them, but they're not flawless. Their articulation is often a little dated, like they don't have double jointed knees and elbows like all the other modern figures do. So they can only move their arms like usually this much instead of like this much. They come with a lot of accessories, but it's often a lot of junk I don't need. And sometimes they're really loose. Like they have hands that you can swap out, but then they're really loose at the wrist and their hands might fall out. There's lots of problems with them, which I can deal with because most toy lines have some problems. But the price point it's out of control for me. They are $55 for a standard figure. Some of the larger figures, I think, can go as high as $85, and that's in American dollars. So when I mentioned before, I'm Canadian. Anything I buy U.S. price, you have to times it 1.3. So a $55 standard Ultimates figure costs me $75. Plus any shipping and customs fees on top of that. So I could be looking at upwards of like $100 for one of these figures. And it's not unheard of for me to pay $100 for a figure, but in the past, that was always for a premium figure, like, random one-offs, like maybe a convention exclusive or something like that. But when it comes to these Ultimates, these lines, they're putting out more and more figures, more and more lines that I'm interested in, and they're putting them out more and more frequently. And when it comes to lines like G.I. Joe and Transformers, those are brands that I typically am a completist on. So I want to buy every character. So with G.I. Joe, I buy every character in the 3 3/4 scale. I buy every character in the new 6-inch scale for the classified line. I buy them, when they're little Lego brick figures. I buy them when they're Funko Pops. So it just didn't even really occur to me not to buy them when Super7 started putting out reaction figures and Ultimates. I pre-ordered them all. But with 3 and 4 waves coming out at $75 a pop, it's just it's too much to keep up with. It's too expensive, and they take up a lot of room because they're pretty large figures too. So I ordered the first wave of Transformers a while ago, and I posted a review. And I was a little underwhelmed. I think they're pretty great, but not considering the price point. Like, their articulation is just not up to snuff. A lot of accessories, but a lot of it is kind of junk, I would say. It's just, I don't know. I'm torn. So I've already decided to cancel some of my Transformer pre-orders for future waves. G.I. Joe, right now I have all 12 figures pre-ordered. If I open this figure up and I absolutely love it, then maybe I will continue with those pre-orders. At the very least, I'll keep my Wave 1 pre-orders, and then I'll kind of decide from there if I'm going to keep Wave 2 and Wave 3. But if I'm at all underwhelmed by this figure, even if it's good, if it's not fantastic, I will probably have to look at my Wave 1 figures and start canceling some of the pre-orders. Because they look great, but like I said, at $75 a pop, do I really need a $75 Cobra Commander when I already have, a ton of 3 3/4 Cobra Commanders? I've already got 3 Cobra Commanders from the classified line, at the 6-inch scale. So, I don't know. Anyway, that was a whole bunch of whatever. Let's get to the figure. So you can see it comes in the same brown mailer box that pretty much all the Ultimates and even the reaction figure that it came in. So on the front it says Cobra B.A.T. So yeah, I don't know if I've mentioned that yet this video, but that is the figure that they put out at San Diego Comic-Con. The Cobra Battle Android Trooper. And this is a fan favorite. People love the Battle Android Trooper. In fact, the Battle Android Trooper, as we are used to seeing him, which is like black with a kind of a red faceplate, that's how he appeared in the cartoons and in the comic books, and that's how the old toys looked. That figure is included in Wave 1 of G.I. Joe Ultimates. So I already have that figure on pre-order. What this is, it's not just a repaint of that figure. I think for the most part it is. Like, they took the body of that figure that's supposed to come later this year, but they painted it in different colors that is supposed to be true to the Marvel comic book of the 80s. And they've given him a new head and new arms and different accessories. So it is going to be a pretty different figure than the other figure that I already have on pre-order. So, yeah, let's take a look at him. So, open this guy up. And so this is my first time seeing what the G.I. Joe Ultimates is going to look like. So you can see they've got this kind of reflective blue camo. You can see the word G.I. Joe. It's kind of textured into the box, so you can feel that when you run your fingers over it. It's kind of got this like weathered metal look to it. Like it almost looks like the box is scuffed up, but that's intentional. So it kind of looks like maybe a foot locker that's been kicked around a little bit. So very cool. Then the name at the bottom there where you see Cobra Bat, that's in like a reflective like dog tag. So yeah, very cool. I like the box. And then we open it up. Well, here, let's do it this way. Make it a little bit more suspenseful. Open up the back. And you see here we get a file card that looks like a computer terminal. Some other computer terminal stuff. It looks like some still images of the bat from the cartoon, I believe. And then we turn it around and we get the figure. So this is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Cobra Bat based on the comic book appearance. So you can see the base of the body is all blue. And it's a different kind of blue. Like it's not like kind of royal cobra blue that we're used to seeing on the Cobra Troopers and on Cobra Commander. It's a much more like muted, flat blue. And I don't know. Like, would I prefer it in a darker Cobra blue? Perhaps. But I do think it's cool that this is apparently based on the Marvel comic book look. And if I'm being honest, even though I collected Marvel comic books back in the day, I guess I knew the bat looked different in the comic books than how it appeared in the toy and in the cartoon. But only slightly, in the same way that all the characters didn't look quite the same from the comic book to the cartoon to the toy. You expected there to be some transition. Some differentiation between them. But the Cobra Bat, the fact that he's colored blue, like, this is the first time I'm kind of learning that I guess in the comic books, the bats were intended to be blue in color. Because the thing with comic books is when something is supposed to be black, I think of Spider-Man's all black suit. When it was colored in the comic books, it often was almost entirely blue. And that was because that's how they showed any muscle tone or how light was reflecting off of the costume. So you got a lot of blue in the blacks. That's pretty standard. So when I saw Cobra Bat colored with a lot of blue on him in the comic books, I just assumed it was supposed to be black, like Spider-Man's black costume. But I don't know. Super7's telling me that apparently they were intended to be blue, and that's what they're giving us here. So you can see he's got lots of accessories. But, you know, we're probably going to talk about all of that stuff once I open him up. So I don't know if there's much point. I've already been talking for like a half hour here anyway. So why don't we open this up, flip things around, and we'll take a closer look at them. Okay, so I've got the toys all opened up, but before we take a look at them, I did actually go and watch the first 2 episodes of Pyramid of Darkness, and as you can see here, I recorded a couple clips from the show. So here you'll see Snake Eyes and Shipwreck with Polly and Timber, their little pet sidekicks. They break into Cobra headquarters, and they see all these snakelings, which are not somebody we usually see in Cobra. I don't know if they appeared in any other episodes other than this miniseries. But they knock a couple of the guys out, they take their outfits, and then they try and fit in with the other snakelings on the subway in the Cobra headquarters. Which just seems a little ridiculous because obviously Snake Eyes is still very much looking like Snake Eyes, and they have a parrot and a wolf with them. Now here you see the Cobra headquarters, and it very much looks like that box I showed you with the Cobra head, the kind of purple bricks, and the orange doors. And from watching the show, I realized that that temple is not the Pyramid of Darkness. The Pyramid of Darkness relates to Cobra's plan, which is to launch a bunch of satellites that form a pyramid pattern over the Earth and shut off all the electricity, hence the Pyramid of Darkness. Now here you see Shipwreck and Snake Eyes trying to get through the gate here where the security droid is trying to get them to match the voice activation. And when they're unable to have a voice that the computer recognizes, then it goes into this very extreme way of taking care of intruders, and the first episode comes to an end to be continued. The second episode starts off with these walls closing in on Shipwreck and Snake Eyes. Now, thankfully, Shipwreck has a parrot with him who is able to mimic the voice of one of the Cobra Troopers who went in ahead of them, and the computer recognizes Polly's voice, and then it shuts the walls from closing in, and Snake Eyes and Shipwreck are able to enter the Cobra headquarters just in the nick of time. So there we go. The droid says, "Okay, you can enter," and they go on their merry way. Now, one thing interesting to note here is you'll notice Shipwreck does not have a hat on, and Snake Eyes does. The action figures that came with this box set show both characters with the snakeling hat on. And I'm not sure why, because Shipwreck never puts the hat on. Now, some of these scenes I kept in here just to show you the green shirts. You see there, those generic troopers. Because they were released a couple of times by Super7 now, in a couple different color schemes. And I knew they were featured in the cartoon, but I had kind of forgotten how prominent they were. You'll see here there's a bunch of scenes with them. There were some scenes with them on the aircraft carrier with some of the other Joes, and there's also some green shirts up on the space shuttle. So you saw them there at 0 gravity. So quite a lot of green shirts. Now here's where Shipwreck and Snake Eyes find the laser disc with Cobra's plan on it. So they take the laser disc and they're going to bring it back to G.I. Joe headquarters when a couple of Cobra troopers intercept them. Shipwreck, Snake Eyes, with the help of their pets, have to kick these guys' asses. So that goes on for a minute or so. Now, the reason I kind of left this scene in here, which is kind of interesting, is after they beat the guys up, you'll notice Snake Eyes takes his hat off and just kind of discards it. He's kind of sick and tired of wearing that thing. So for the rest of the episode, now neither guy has the snakeling hat on. So these guys both get on their little train thing here and try and make their escape. Now, besides these Shipwreck and Snake Eyes in snakeling costumes that came in this box set, Super7 has already released a Snake Eyes in snakeling outfit without a hat, which is kind of interesting as a variant. And yet, Shipwreck, we still only have the hatted version, which isn't even accurate to the show. Anyway, before these guys can try and escape Cobra headquarters, the Cobra troopers come after them, and you'll notice they have the jet packs on. So that's what those extra crisscross straps are on their chest. So they take off with their jetpacks to try and stop the G.I. Joes. The G.I. Joes end up kicking their asses and they make their escape. Now, I can't tell you how the whole show ends because I only watched the first 2 episodes of 5. So I'll have to go back and finish this up at some point. But it was fun to go back and revisit this cartoon. So here is the Pyramid of Darkness set outside of the box. So lots of cool stuff in here, especially with the box as a kind of, you can use that as a backdrop. So you really feel like you're getting a lot of stuff in this box. I feel like I got my money's worth, even though this set was pretty expensive. So first up, we'll take a look at the Cobra Troopers here. Now, as I mentioned when I looked at them earlier, I think these 2 white guys are the same, and I don't see any differences in them at all. So that seems kind of weird. I don't know why Super7 would have given us 2 identical figures. I don't really have a problem with it because in the old days when I wanted to build armies of troopers, I would literally have to go out and buy the exact same figure a bunch of times. But Super7's kind of spoiled me a little bit by giving me so many variants of these guys with the different skin tones, and sometimes it's just a matter of different straps on the back of their uniforms and stuff, that I don't know why they wouldn't have colored one of these guys different. Even if they gave this guy just blonde eyebrows and blue eyes or something, just to differentiate them a little bit. So, yeah, I'm not sure why that is. But the backpacks, as far as I can tell, are not removable. So those extra straps, they seem like they are part of the sculpt. So it's not like they just took the existing trooper figure and, added this extra piece to him. Like, this is a newly sculpted torso. I'm not sure if there's any other newly sculpted parts on there. Here is one of my standard Cobra Troopers. So you can also see that the troopers always had red logos, where these guys, I guess, would be officers because they have the silver logo and they also have that little black triangle on their helmet, which usually signifies officers. So that's kind of cool that I have some officers to add to my my troopers. So those are the 2 white guys. Then same thing here, except this guy's African American. But otherwise, he's still an officer, silver emblem, black triangle on the helmet. But otherwise, he's pretty much identical. And you can see here they all came with 3 identical guns. Now, these are guns that we've seen earlier in the line. So, for example, if I bring this guy back out, I believe he has the same gun, just in a slightly different color. So, yeah, these guys are a nice little addition to the Cobra army. Whoops. These things don't always stand up super great. But you can see here, like, I have another Cobra Trooper. And this is the like Latino skin tone Cobra Trooper. So you see he's a little bit darker than the white guy. So now I've got a nice little squad of troopers there. Now next up we'll take a look at the security droid or security robot. So he's pretty cool. This is a completely unique sculpt, not like anything else we've seen before. So he's got 5 points of articulation, just like everybody else. His legs go forward and backward. Arms the same. Now his articulation is a little unique because the other articulation that most reaction figures have is their heads just turn side to side, very limited like that. This guy, he kind of has a ball jointed head, so you can swivel his head around much more than other guys, but you'll see it sits very loose. I don't know if it's supposed to. It looks like maybe some glue came undone on my guy, but pretty much as soon as I took him out of the package, his head fell off pretty easily. Now, not to say it's loose. You can fit it on there pretty tight, but it does have a decent range of movement for posing him. So yeah, he's really cool. I like the look of this guy a lot. Yeah, the Cobra emblem on his chest and everything, like the clawed hands. Very cool. And just like we saw in the clip from the cartoon, he's got his voice print box, so you can see the two wavelengths that the Joes need to match the wavelength in order to get through the room. Otherwise, this is just a hollow accessory. There's not a whole lot to it, but it's pretty cool. The other little accessory you'll see here is the laser disc. So that's just a little like CD accessory. That's kind of cool that they threw that in there as well. Then we've got Snake Eyes here. So here's Snake Eyes with his hat on, and he looks pretty cool. I probably should have grabbed one of my Snakeling figures, but I didn't, so anyway. But the Snakeling figures that Super7 previously released, they have the same body, they just have a different head, and the head is available in a couple different ways, like with a beard or with goggles. So I think there's at least 6, maybe 9 variations of the Snakeling. So you could fill fill a whole subway car full of Snakelings if you want to recreate that scene. One thing that's interesting to note about this Snake Eyes is we've got a few Snake Eyes in the reaction figure line, but most of them are the version 1 like commando Snake Eyes. This would be considered the version 2 Snake Eyes with the kind of ninja visor. Now we did get a ninja Snake Eyes I think in the last wave of reaction figures, and here he is. It's just interesting to note that the colors don't match up, because Snake Eyes, you usually think of him as black. So when we got this blue version, I was kind of thinking, well, they were trying to recreate the animated colors. And yet here we have this one, which is also right out of the animation, and yet he's almost like a kind of a flat purple. So I'm not sure which one is more accurate. This kind of looked like how he appeared in the episode that I just watched, but maybe he got a darker blue in later episodes. I'm not sure. Anyway, the last figure to talk about here is Shipwreck. Now what's cool about him is this is actually the first Shipwreck we're getting in the reaction figure line. So we've got this one before we got his standard sailor outfit, but I believe that one is coming. But otherwise, yeah, same old Snakeling body. Now what's cool about him is you see his bird Polly, and Polly does have a little peg on her foot, and there is a little hole drilled onto Shipwreck's shoulder, so you don't have to put Polly there, but you can. And again, just interesting to note that he's got the hat on, when he didn't have a hat on for the first 2 episodes at all. And I'm guessing they might not wear these Snakeling outfits into the later episodes, because by the end of episode 2, they were kind of escaping the Cobra headquarters. So I can't imagine that he puts the hat on in later episodes, but maybe he does. It just seems weird to me that if he never wore a hat, why did Super7 sculpt him with one? I don't know. And I guess before I move on, I should mention too about Timber. So this is Snake Eyes' wolf. So he's got articulation at the tail. All of his legs are articulated, so they can move back and forth a little bit. And his head is articulated, so he's actually got 6 points of articulation, which is more than most reaction figures. So very cool. I'm really pleased with this set. There's not a whole lot new, arguably, because it's like my 5th Snake Eyes, I think, and even the costume he's in, I do already have other Snakeling figures. This Timber figure, it's the same as the dogs that came with the dog sled with the blind woodsman. The Shipwreck, he's got the same Snakeling body, and we're going to get a standard Shipwreck soon. The Cobra Troopers, sure, the jetpacks are new, but we already have a bunch of Cobra Troopers. So it's primarily the security robot that's the real draw to this set. But regardless, I don't mind getting more Cobra Troopers. It just expands my army. The Shipwreck and the Snake Eyes are fun. They're, episode specific, which, that's the kind of thing that's perfect for a convention exclusive, because not everybody's going to need them. Not everybody's going to want Snake Eyes in an outfit that he wore for one episode. You don't really need it. But for fans like me who are, like buying stuff like this, I think it's a really cool set. I like it a lot. So even though I'm kind of itching to get to my other new item, which is the Ultimates Cobra B.A.T, I will take a little bit of time here to talk about my other San Diego Comic-Con figures that I got about a month ago, and that is the glow-in-the-dark reaction figures. So yeah, this is my first time showing them to you guys outside of the packaging, and I really do love these. These are another thing that are good San Diego exclusives, because they're not easy for everybody to get, but you don't need them. Like the casual fan does not need repaints of these guys, because there's already multiple Snake Eyes, multiple Cobra Commanders, multiple Cobra Troopers. All these guys are available at retail pretty easily. So these are, again, just kind of for the hardcore collectors, and I would count myself amongst the hardcore collectors, unfortunately, because I'm forced to hunt this stupid stuff down. Anyway, these guys are a lot of fun. The Snake Eyes here, he looks pretty wild in green and yellow. That is not the typical colors you expect to see Snake Eyes in. He's got his little glow-in-the-dark green pistol as well. This Snake Eyes is the same one that we got in Wave 1 in the blue and purple, as well as the Target exclusive repaint, which is supposed to look like I think it was from Argentina, so like an international repaint. So there you go, you got 3 Snake Eyes, and yeah, this guy is fun. I like all these colors. Then we'll move on to Scarlet. So Scarlet actually has a couple glow-in-the-dark accessories as well, but she doesn't hold on to either of them very well. She's got her glow-in-the-dark crossbow, and then she's got her quiver of arrows that can hang over her shoulder, but they don't stay in place very well. They keep falling out of her hands, so I wouldn't display her with them. But it's a cool figure. Nice paint job on the face. She's got her little throwing stars still painted on her gloves. But this is, an exact repaint of the previously released Scarlet. So yeah, if you've got this one, you probably don't need this one, but if you're able to get your hands on these guys, I'd say go for it. I think they're a lot of fun. I'm glad I picked them up despite the price. Then we've got the green shirt. So this is kind of the standard, just G.I. Joe, the nameless trooper that you saw featured in those clips from the cartoon. And like I said, I knew he was in the cartoon, I just didn't realize how much he was in the cartoon. So you see here, I have a couple other versions of him. This is the kind of dark-skinned Latino version, and then here's the African-American version. He's also available as a white guy. So now you've got, 4 potential G.I. Joe green shirts. So again, that's a really cool way to build your army. Now, this is probably my favorite of the bunch, the Cobra Trooper. I just think he looks awesome in these colors. The other guys, they look fun, but they look a little silly. Like, I would never choose this Scarlet over the standard Scarlet. But this guy, it's a really cool variant. I think he looks good in these colors with the red straps and the red knee pads and everything. And then he's got those like blue eyes with the black eyebrows. It's a very striking look, and I think it's cool. He's got the glow-in-the-dark pistol or rifle, I guess, what we've seen with the other troopers. But yeah, great figure. I like all of these guys, but when it comes time to do my best of the year list, I think the Cobra Trooper is the only one from this set that's going to be in contention. And then there's Cobra Commander. I don't know. Maybe Cobra Commander. And I didn't think this with the Trooper just now, but with Cobra Commander, I don't know. I feel like maybe his helmet should have been glow in the dark as well. Like I'm fine with his gloves and his boots and everything not being, but like I don't know. I feel like maybe his helmet should be. He looks a little mismatched. And I guess the same would apply to the Trooper, but it doesn't bother me as much with the Trooper. But yeah, this guy here, I feel like his helmet should be glow in the dark. Anyway, this is the same figure that we previously got in Wave 1. And again in, I think it was Wave 2 that we got the navy blue and gold repaint. So there you go. And then last but not least is the Baroness. And I like this figure a lot. I actually might like this one more than the previous release as well. So we initially got Baroness in her blue and yellow costume, which is not her most well-known costume. This is what she wore in very early episodes of the cartoon and issues of the comic book, but she very quickly switched to the all-black outfit. And we did get that version of the Baroness later. But this glow-in-the-dark one, this is modeled off of this figure. And out of these two, I think I prefer this one. I just really like the way those red lenses look. So she's got the glow-in-the-dark rifle as well. Anyway, it's a cool figure. I like it. I don't know how much more I can really say about these guys. All the articulation is the same. The sculpting, we've seen it all before. Despite the fact that these are supposed to be really simple figures, I do think the sculpts on these are great. So, yeah, if you're a fan of, G.I. Joe, especially the G.I. Joe cartoon, I think these are must-haves. Not necessarily the exclusives, but, the standard ones that you can buy at retail and buy online. I would say you should definitely add those to your collection. Reaction figures still seem to get a lot of hate online. I'm in a couple of different G.I. Joe Facebook groups, and whenever somebody posts these, there's like a whole bunch of people that get really vocal about these aren't real G.I. Joes, these are stupid, they don't move like a G.I. Joe should move. And I don't understand all the hate. It's true these things are not as articulated as your standard G.I. Joe from the 80s, but, it's its own thing, and these things are awesome in their own way. So yeah, I love them. Now, while this video is almost entirely focused on G.I. Joe, I should mention the other Super 7 exclusives I got, which are just as awesome. I love Godzilla as well, and I have pretty much all of the Godzilla reaction figures that Super 7 has released thus far. So when they showed that they were going to release 3 of them in glow-in-the-dark decos for San Diego Comic-Con, I knew I had to have them all. Again, they're just a lot of fun. So here you go. These are the 3 exclusives. So you've got Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, and Jet Jaguar. And yeah, if you've seen my review or any review of the original releases, you know what you're getting here. The sculpting is the exact same. The articulation's obviously the exact same. These are pretty standard reaction figures, but they're still a lot of fun. So Mechagodzilla here, his body's in that, I don't even know how you would describe this color. I guess white or off-white, but it's that kind of like uncolored glow-in-the-dark plastic. Like when you've got those G.I. Joe guys and everything, and they're tinted green, but this is kind of the the standard glow-in-the-dark plastic, I guess. And then he's got the red and the silver highlights. Very cool. Here is the original release, so you can see how they differ. So this guy is all gray with the yellow and red, but yeah, just like with the Joes, these are not essential for every collector. If you just want a Mechagodzilla in your collection, I think you'd be fine just getting this guy. But if you're a hardcore Godzilla collector and you really want to have everything, then yeah, you won't be disappointed with these glow-in-the-dark ones. I think they're pretty cool. Next up, we've got the King of Monsters himself, Godzilla. And he looks pretty great. I love how his eyes, they've got that silver paint, but they still painted his pupils blue. It really kind of gives him some life, I guess. And then he's got the silver teeth, which look really cool. And then he's got that kind of baby blue on his fins, and kind of touched up a little bit here throughout the body. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and it looks quite a bit different from the standard colors. Whereas Mechagodzilla and Jet Jaguar are not that far removed from their original gray colors. Godzilla here, he looks quite different because this is a very dark. He's still gray, but very dark, almost black. And now we get almost white on this one, so it's a pretty stark contrast. And yeah, he's pretty great. So, again, recommended. And lastly, Jet Jaguar. So, here is the original. This is the figure I was most excited about when the reaction figure line was announced for Godzilla, because I love this character and I actually did not have any previous versions of him in my collection. But now I have two. And yeah, they're both really cool. I was going to say I don't know which one I like more, but I think I do like the standard color one more. But there's something about the black eyes on this kind of white head that really pop and make it stand out. So I really like that. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. They're both cool. Get them both. Anyway, before I move on to the Ultimates Joe, I'm going to see if I turn the lights off, maybe I can get you to, you can see how these guys glow, because they glow really well, to my surprise. The only thing is it's not really, it's not nighttime yet as I'm filming this, so it's not going to get super dark in this room, but I'll see what I can do. And it's not capturing it as much as I would like it to, but trust me, these guys glow pretty brightly. If they've been exposed to light for a while and then you turn the lights off, you can really see it on the Godzillas, but I have seen the Joes glow pretty brilliantly as well. So, okay, so here is the G.I. Joe Ultimates Cobra Battle Android Trooper, or BAT, in his comic book colors. And yeah, so I opened this guy up and I've been fiddling around with him just a little bit. And if you listened to my whole preamble at the start of the video, I don't want to start off on a negative note, but I think this figure has deterred me from being a completist on this line of Ultimate Joes. And I'm not even necessarily disappointed. I'm almost relieved. Because it is such an expensive undertaking to collect these figures. I've been kind of let down with Ultimates in the past. Even though some of them have been stellar, I just feel at the cost that they are, I can't overlook some of the flaws as easily as I can overlook a flaw on, say, a Marvel Legend or something. And so this guy looks cool. So, I was pretty excited just to finally get my hands on one of these Ultimates and just get a sense of what they feel like and everything. But right off the bat, one of the issues I mentioned in my intro is that sometimes they're a little loose. And I think you can kind of see that with the head there. It's a little, it kind of wobbles around. And a lot of the joints feel that way. Worst of all, the ankles feel that way. Like these, they don't wobble, they're not completely loose. But you take him out of the box, and I'm worried that at any second, it doesn't take anything for him to fall over. And where it is such a big and heavy figure, if I had this guy in a display with a bunch of other figures, and then the ankles tip over, he's going to make a big mess, knocking everybody down. And I worry about even just this one figure himself. If he falls down, he could break because he is so big and everything like that. So I really wish they had stronger kind of ratcheted ankles that if you had them in place, you knew they weren't going to just randomly move. But even when I was just trying to get him to stand up to start this video, I had to struggle a little bit to find the right, positioning to make sure he was balanced. So that's my first concern with it. And that's really my major concern with it, is the kind of looseness of it. The articulation, I talked about that before too, but that doesn't really bother me because I expected that going in. But you see, so his arms, that's the extent of his movement. So that's his arm straight, which isn't even, straight. And then you bend it, and it's not even, like a 90-degree angle. So that's as good as it gets. And so it is limited, and it doesn't bother me that much. But again, they call these figures the Ultimates. You know, you kind of expect them to do a little bit more. When I got my Transformers Ultimates, I couldn't believe how limited the articulation was. Like, some of the Transformers arms could only go up like this high, or only move forward like this much. It was really, really limited. This guy, he's got like a ball joint on his shoulder, so his arm can lift straight up, and he spins around like that. You can see there is another joint there on the shoulder, as well as the elbow joint, and then he's got a wrist joint right there, as well as right at the wrist. So the wrist and then the kind of the mid-arm, I guess you'd call that joint. The head, ball jointed. No articulation in the waist, like there's no ab crunch. He does articulate a little bit at the waist. He spins around. It's weird because his torso piece here, like his belt, this is like a soft rubber. We kind of saw the same thing on some of the Transformers. Like, I don't know if you can see that bending as I turn. But that also makes me worried a little bit about the quality of this, and like how long is that going to last? Will that just rip or split at some point? The fact that it's kind of rubbery. I don't know. Then the knees. So knees, he's got that much movement on the knee, so not a ton. Got a boot swivel, and then he's got a joint at the ankles. And then, the hips. Just, he can kick forward, kick out to the side a little bit, not a ton. But yeah, that's pretty much it articulation-wise. Now you can see I've already got him loaded up with some of his accessories. So out of the package, he came with his fisted hands. Now he's got this little pistol, and I was a little worried about this right off the bat too. It's got this little piece here, so you see it plugs in, and then his pistol fits in there. But I'm worried about this plastic. I could feel like right there at the base of it, I feel like it's already about to snap off. And I've really only lifted it up once or twice. So I think once I put this pistol in here again, it'll probably be there for the rest of my life. I don't see myself I don't even want to mess with it on camera right now. But it fits in there all right. But yeah, it just feels really wobbly. And, I know from experience how delicate those things are. I have an Ultimates Lion-O figure from the Thundercats, and he had a little knob on his belt to hang his glove. And I put the glove on, and within a couple of minutes of playing with my toy, the little knob broke off of his belt. And again, that's the kind of thing you just don't want to happen on a $75 toy. I wasn't being rough with it or anything. I was just putting something where it was supposed to go, and it broke. And that's what I feel could happen here. And then his backpack. So the backpack's kind of interesting, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't think I like it. Most G.I. Joe backpacks have always plugged into a hole in the back. Now his backpack looks like a Bat backpack, like how it's supposed to look. But you see how it plugs into the shoulders. And it doesn't quite sit very flush. So otherwise you can take that off. And yeah, that's how it attaches. There's no knob in the back. He doesn't have a hole in his back. You just kind of have to attach it there. But again, it just doesn't feel like it fits super naturally. Now, one of the pros of that is sometimes you get a figure with the backpack and the peg just doesn't line up with the back, or it's too loose. And if the peg in the back is loose, the backpack is always falling out. The fact that it's hooked over his shoulders makes me think it will stay in place, but I just don't think it looks as good. Anyway, he does have storage in his backpack for his 3 alternate hands. And those are the same 3 hands we've always seen with the Bat. Dating all the way back to the original that came out in, 85 or 86? So he's got the, I think this is a flamethrower hand. And then this, I always called it a grenade launcher hand, but I don't really know what that is. It almost looks more like a fire hose or something. Maybe a drill. Who knows? And then his claw hand. Now, the other 2 pieces are fine. I like the way these are colored. They've got that kind of metallic-y blue paint job on them. It seems like a real missed opportunity that this thing does not articulate. Like, this claw should open and close. That seems like a no-brainer for an Ultimates figure. So, yeah, that's pretty disappointing that does not open. As for swapping them out, I haven't done this yet. So, I think they swap out, I don't know. Because you see there is a split there and at the wrist. Now, before I get into swapping his hands out for weapons, he does have a whole bunch of extra hands as well. So he's got the closed fist. He also has some trigger hands, so that way he can hold his guns. Then he's got this kind of like open kind of clutching or grabbing hand if you wanted to have him holding something up maybe, or grabbing at somebody's face, so you get those hands. And then you've got, looks like another version of a trigger finger. So these ones are maybe slightly different because he does have two different guns. They look pretty much the same to me. But anyway, whatever. And then he's got the same thing for the other side. So he's got lots of hands to choose from. One thing that's interesting to note in so his fist hands or these hands, the kind of clawing hands, you'll notice there is that joint at the wrist, so the wrist can kind of move forward and backward a little bit. On any of the gun holding hands, you lose that articulation. So it swivels, but you don't have the joint. So it can't rock forward and backward. I don't know why. Maybe because they feel if he's holding the gun, you know what? I don't even know. Maybe if the gun had a big stock or something, but I don't really think these guns do. So I don't know. It just seems weird that those hands don't have that articulation. So anyway, you can see if I'm changing his hands, I very clearly separate the arm there. But if I'm separating it, just want to put on the claw, I don't know if I'm supposed to. I guess I take it off at the same spot. It kind of seems like I could maybe take it off at the wrist. Anyway, let's hope I don't break anything. Okay, well that came off relatively easily. And that plugs in like so. So that looks all right. But again, I feel like it should open and close. So, major disappointment there. Now he has another weapon here. And this is another gripe I have. Now you might not have the same issue. I imagine all of these figures are going to be pretty loose. So if I have that problem, you're going to have that problem. Hopefully yours is packaged better than mine, because my guy has this extra gun. But you can see the way it was packaged in the plastic. It is warped all to hell. And it doesn't look realistic at all. It just looks silly. So I don't ever see myself posing him with this gun unless I maybe try and heat it up and bend it back into a normal shape myself. Although I never really understood why the Bat would carry a gun anyway. You know, he's got, all these different weapon hands. I don't think he needs a gun. So it's fine. I won't display him with this. But again, for the price I'm paying, I feel I should be getting better quality stuff than that. Now, other than his standard backpack, he has a whole nother backpack, which is this big old canister. And you can see it hooks onto his shoulders just like the other one does. And if you open this up, there are 3 purple spore things in there. And these things come out like so. So you can take all 3 of those spores out, I think. I hope I didn't break that. No, it seems like they come in and out pretty easily. Now what this is all about is, you know what? I don't remember how frequently the Bat appeared in the cartoon or the comic book. I loved both of those when I was a kid, but they're just a big blur. And most of my G.I. Joe memories come from me playing with the toys. So they would have introduced the Bat in the comics and in the cartoon. But as soon as I got the Bat toy when I was a kid, I played with the Bat like crazy. It was always a major, component of my playtime. So I remember the Bat as being very important, the same way I do a lot of other Joes. But then sometimes I go back and I reread the comic books or look at the cartoons and I realize, oh, you know what? Those characters weren't featured nearly as prominently as I remembered. Maybe they got one episode or one issue to really shine, but then they kind of got pushed to the background. With the Bat, I can understand the need for them in the cartoon because they wanted the G.I. Joes to be able to shoot at something and blow them up. Because otherwise it looked like the G.I. Joe were always missing when they were trying to shoot at Cobra. So that's why they needed the robots. But they weren't as necessary in the comic book because people actually did die in the comic book and you could shoot Cobra Troopers and it wasn't such a big deal. So I don't know if they were featured all that prominently in the comic book. But This figure, I think, is specifically based off of the very first appearance of the Cobra Bat in the G.I. Joe comic book. And the fact that he has this accessory is what really tips me off to that. Because in issue 44 of G.I. Joe, which features Lady J on the cover, and you've got a Cobra Bat driving a truck trying to run her over. So in that issue, which I believe also introduced Dr. Mindbender for the first time, Lady J is driving, she's leading like a convoy of Joes, and then all these Cobra Bats jump out of a truck and attack them, and they start running at them, and they've got these canisters on their back. And they're colored in that kind of blackish blue image that I showed you earlier, which, I would have just assumed that they were supposed to be black and the blue was just showing the lighting or the shadow, but apparently, again, maybe they were supposed to be blue. But they run at them with these canisters. It's a very quick scene. You really only get one or two clear shots of the bats. And then they open up these canisters and they throw these spores at the Joes, and they grow into these kind of vines that wrap around the Joes and wrap around their vehicles. And look at that. The door just popped off on that. All right, that was interesting. Barely touched it, but the door just came off its hinges. Hopefully that's not a problem there. Anyway, I don't think I'll be using this for much anyway. I'm not going to display him with the canister. But anyway, the Cobra Bat, I think, ultimately only appeared on a couple pages of that first appearance. And I don't know how frequently they were used after that. But anyway, that's why he comes with the canister with the spores. Now, the last two accessories he comes with are this battle-damaged head, which is pretty cool. So you can see the faceplate there is all cracked up. Now, I'm sure that this head will pop on there, and you can see what it would look like. I am not going to attempt that on my very first time touching this figure while on camera. I learned my lesson the hard way in a video not too long ago where I was trying to change the head of an Action Force figure, and I broke the neck. So I would recommend probably heating this figure up a little bit, maybe taking a hairdryer to it before you start popping the heads off. I was willing to risk it with the hand because I have so many other hands. If I broke one, it wasn't the end of the world, but I'm not going to risk breaking this guy's neck peg off and ruining the figure. So I'm not going to mess with that right now. The other accessory he comes with is this like sparking explosion accessory, which is really cool. Now on his chest, you can see he's got this kind of faux glass panel. Now apparently that's removable. There's a little tab there. I don't know how easy this is to do. I don't really have much in the way of fingernails right now. Let's see. Ugh. Okay, so there you go. Take the glass panel off. And then there's a little hole in there. So you can plug this into that. And that's the effect you get. So it's supposed to look like a bullet hit or something. And maybe he's malfunctioning. You can kind of spin this in different ways. So I don't know. I think that's a pretty cool accessory. I do like it. One thing I was a little disappointed about was with the head there. I saw the battle damaged head, and obviously that would look good with the explosion. He'd look all battle damaged. But I thought there was a hole on the head there that you could plug this into as well, because that might look kind of cool. But there isn't actually a hole there, so you can't plug that in. So, oh well. Anyway, so that is the Ultimate Bat. He's a little loose. His accessories are, they're a little bent. I don't really love how the backpack sits on him. Now, before we go, I guess you might want to see a comparison because the G.I. Joe Classified line started coming out a couple of years ago. I'm all in on the Classified line. I love those figures. They're 6-inch figures produced by Hasbro. And it was kind of a curiosity with like whether these figures would fit in with those. We kind of already know they won't because these guys are scaled at about 7 inches. So all of these guys would look kind of freakishly tall compared to the other guys. But with the Bat, more than anybody, I think he can get away with it because he's a robot. So you could have built a 7-foot robot and he won't look ridiculously out of place. Anyway, here is the Bat from Hasbro. And this looks much more like the traditional Bat that we know from the vintage toy line and from pretty much every other toy line that has come since. And yeah, it's a really cool figure. I like this guy a lot. And for articulation and everything like that, he's he's way better off. You can see he's got the double jointed knees. I'm not going to. This isn't a review of this figure, so I'm not really going to get into it. But you can see the similarities and you can see the differences. He's got that similar backpack with the claw, which, by the way, is it articulated here? It is not. All right. I was thinking it was, but that claw is also not articulated, so that's kind of a bummer. And then he's got the same 2 attachments that plug into the backpack. Anyway, size-wise, he is pretty much dwarfed by the larger figure. They do not really look like they would fit in together. Again, seeing as he's a robot, I think you can get away with it. But I think if you were going to try and display, a Hasbro Snake Eyes with a Super7 Scarlet, you're definitely going to have a problem. Those guys will not look like they came from the same planet. So, anyway, I don't think they were ever intended to be mixed and matched. You probably already knew you couldn't. But if you wanted to see how they compared size-wise, there you have it. So, yeah, I like him. He's okay. But I'll be honest, he feels like a $30 figure. The looseness really does bother me. I don't know if it's coming across here, but every time I touch him, his ankles move and they kind of fall over. His arms do feel a little loose. I worry that he wouldn't really hold a pose. If I held his arm out like that with the gun, I feel like his arm would just end up drooping down in like no time. His neck wobbles like way too easily. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not shitting on the figure. I like him. I just don't know that he's worth $75. He's not worth $75 to me, and therefore, I think when it comes to Wave 1, I don't know, because the 4 figures in Wave 1 of G.I. Joe Ultimates are Cobra Commander and the Bat and Duke and Snake Eyes. And the Snake Eyes is in these colors, like the cartoon colors with the bare hands. And, I like Snake Eyes in his all-black outfit. And I knew when they put this figure out as a reaction figure, they were going to give us an all-black version later, which I do have. I'll try and grab him over here. I actually haven't opened him up yet, but, they gave us the all-black version of that Snake Eyes later. So, but the cost of those figures, at $20 to $25 for a reaction figure, I don't mind, picking them both up. But when it comes to Ultimates, if I'm going to buy one Snake Eyes, it's going to be the one in black. And seeing as they haven't announced that one yet, I think I could probably cancel my pre-order for this Snake Eyes from Wave 1 and hold out for them to repaint it in black later on down the line. And even then, maybe I won't feel I need it at that point in time because I already have a couple of Snake Eyes in the 6-inch scale. Same as Duke. I really love the animated look of the Duke from the Ultimates line. He looks quite a bit different from the classified version. But I already have a really nice animated looking Duke from the reaction line. And I feel I might have to lean on the reaction figures to kind of scratch that itch for animated, accurate figures. And even though the Ultimates, I wish I could collect them, it's just, can't justify it. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But anyway, let's wrap this up. So that was my review of Super7's San Diego Comic-Con exclusive reaction figures and Ultimates figures. So I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Leave me comments below. Go check out my other videos. Share them with a friend. I'm trying to grow this channel, and I appreciate all the support and help I can get from you guys. So do all that stuff. I'll be back soon with another video, so stay tuned. Until then,